Hi guys, I'm Anshika, your psychology teacher. In this video, we'll be covering the topic signs and symptoms of stress. Let's start. So it says that the way we respond to stress varies depending upon our personality, early upbringing, and life experiences. Everyone has their own pattern of stress response. So basically, what does this means? That every individual, the way we every different individual respond to stress varies, means हर इन different individual डिफरेंट तरीके से एक स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशन को रिस्पॉन्ड करता है. ये 3 चीज़ों पे वेरी करता है कि कैसे वो रिस्पॉन्ड करेगा. पर्सनालिटी, early upbringing, and life experiences. In case of personality, let's take an example and understand this. There are two person A and person B, or you can say individual. Both are suffering from financial loss. Let's say individual A has more task oriented. He focuses more on the problem and finding the solution instead of getting emotional about it and having negative thoughts. Whereas individual B considers or thinks that it's a negative thought, it's a negative thing that I'm on a financial loss and I don't know how to come over it. He is having a lot of negative thoughts. So it depends on personality, like whether the person has a positive personality towards the situation or a negative personality. What are the personality traits? Let's come to early upbringing. If the upbringing is towards more mature side, if the person has been through some things and past experiences, like he has been through something same or a similar situation in the past and has overcome it, it is more likely that individual A will be overcome it easily as compared to the individual B who has not faced a similar situation in his past. Now everyone has their own pattern of stress response. Like हर एक इंसान का ना डिफरेंट पैटर्न होता है कि वो कैसे एक स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशन को रिस्पॉन्ड करता है. ठीक है. सो जो इंडिविजुअल के वार्निंग साइंस है ना कि अब स्ट्रेस आ रहा है और उसकी इंटेंसिटी क्या है, ये सब डिफर करता है. कहाँ डिफर करता है? इंडिविजुअल टू इंडिविजुअल. अब some of us know our pattern of responses and can gauge the depth of the problem by nature and severity of our own symptoms or changes in behavior. अब कुछ लोगों को क्या होता है, जैसे कि पता होता है कि उनका पैटर्न क्या है स्ट्रेस रिस्पॉन्स का, कि पहले प्रॉब्लम आएगी, वो डिनाइल में जाएगा, या फिर वो डिनाइल में जाएगा, फिर धीरे धीरे एक्सेप्ट करेगा और फिर वर्क करेगा. एवरीवन हैज़ देयर डिफरेंट पैटर्न ऑफ स्ट्रेस रिस्पॉन्स, एंड व्हेन द पर्सन नोज what's their stress response is or what's their pattern of stress response is, they can get to know the depth of the problem just by the nature and its symptoms. Okay, so these symptoms of stress now, they can be physical, emotional and behavioral. A physical कैसे हो सकता है? Physical in the form of headache, illness, losing weight, okay, like not having a proper diet then losing weight. Emotionally कैसे हो सकता है? You can see the person gets easily annoyed or irritated or angry by the smallest things. Behavioral changes हो जाएंगे. He'll get addicted. Either he can get addicted to alcohol or caffeine, drugs. These are all the changes in the behavior. They can opt, okay, and any of these symptoms can indicate a degree of stress. कोई भी सिम्टम आपको कोई भी पर्टिकुलर डिग्री ऑफ स्ट्रेस बताता ही बताता है. फिजिकल होगा तो मे बी इट कैन बी हाई लेवल ऑफ इंटेंसिटी और हाई डिग्री ऑफ स्ट्रेस. इमोशनल, it can be medium degree of stress, or behavioral is the most harmful symptom of stress, you can say that. If left unresolved, might have serious implication. And if this stress is unresolved, the person does not seek help or does not try to cope with the stress, it can cause serious implication in the form of physical illness, in the form of hypertension, and it can also lead to some psychological disorders. Some psychological disorder we'll be studying in detail in next chapter. So this is the signs and symptoms of stress. Now let's say types of stress. What are the types of stress? Stress के भी तो type होते हैं. There are 3 major types of stress. Physical and environmental stress, psychological stress, and social stress. They also have some subtypes. So let's start with types of stress. The three major types of stress are physical and environmental, as I told you, psychological and social. So let's start with physical and environmental. नाम से ही पता चलता है physical या फिर environment से related है, और इससे easy type कोई है ही नहीं. This is the easiest one. Physical stress demands that change the state of our body. Physical stress वो stress होता है जो हमारी body की state को change करता है. ठीक है, कैसे change करता है? एक negative form में change करता है. Like we feel restrained, we over exert ourselves physically. Over exertion physically का क्या मतलब होता है? Like doing the things which we don't need to do, or doing a lot of things at a particular time that physically exhausts your body. Lack a nutritious diet. Maybe you are busy with your work, but even you lack a nutritious diet, it can lead to physical forms of stress. Suffer an injury or fail to get enough sleep. This is the symptoms of physical and environmental stress. Okay, physical stress क्या होता है? Basically physical stress वो stress होता है जो demand करता है हमारी state of body को change होने के लिए. इसके main reason होते हैं strain होना, when we overexert ourselves, or we suffer an injury. Okay, now let's start with environmental stress. Environmental stress are aspects of our surroundings. Environment क्या कह रहा है? वो stress जो हमें environment से मिलता है, ये वो aspects होते हैं हमारे surroundings के जो unavoidable होते हैं. Those which are unavoidable, जैसे कि air pollution, we cannot avoid it, but it can cause you stress. Crowding, किसी को नहीं पसंद इतने सारे लोग में, इतनी सारी भीड़ में, you will eventually get stressed. Noise, heat of the summer, winter, cold. And there is another group of environmental stress which are called catastrophic events or disasters such as fire, earthquake, or floods. These are part of environmental stresses. Now let's talk about psychological stress. Psychological stress क्या होता है? Okay, let's start with definition. Okay, psychological stresses that we generate ourselves in our mind. Simple basic line. Stresses that we generate ourselves in our mind. वो stress जो हम खुद ही बना लेते हैं अपने दिमाग में. This is known as psychological stress. ये personal, these are personal and unique to the persons experiencing them and are internal sources of stress. Definitely हर दूसरे person का ये अलग होगा और unique होगा दूसरे लोगों से. And ये कौन से sources of stress होते हैं? These are the internal sources of stress. Environmental stresses are the external sources of stress and psychological stresses are the internal sources of stress. We worry about problems. हम problems के बारे में worry करते हैं जो इतनी बड़ी होती नहीं, लेकिन हम ज़्यादा tension ले लेते हैं, overthink कर लेते हैं. It leads to psychological stress. हम anxiety feel करते हैं छोटी छोटी बात पे, हम depressed हो जाते हैं. And these are not only symptoms of stress but they can cause further stress to us. ये खाली सिम्टम्स नहीं होते हैं स्ट्रेस के, यही चीज हमें और ज्यादा स्ट्रेस कॉज कर सकती है. Some of the important sources of psychological stress are frustration, conflict, internal and social pressures. Okay, these are the sub type of psychological stress. Let's start with frustration. Frustration से तो तुम्हें क्या समझ में आ रहा है? जब कोई इंसान easily frustrated हो जाता है. लेकिन आपको पता है इंसान frustrated होता कब है? जब इंसान सिर्फ तभी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड होता है जब उसकी कोई नीड या फिर कोई उसका मोटिव कोई ब्लॉक कर रहा है, किसी इवेंट के चक्कर में वो चीज ब्लॉक हो रही है, कोई इंसान ब्लॉक कर रहा है. ओके, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड इन अ टेक्निकल वे. Frustration results from the blocking of needs and motives by something or someone that hinders us from achieving a desired goal. Okay, let's take an example. I have a desired goal that I want to become a doctor, or let's take an example, a person has a desired goal, he wants to become an engineer. But he is not able to become an engineer, maybe because his parents says that you cannot become an engineer, we are a family of a doctor, you have to become a doctor. So उसकी नीड और उसके मोटिव में क्या क्रिएट हुई? हिंड्रेंस. एंड जब कोई नीड या फिर जब किसी के गोल को अचीव करने के लिए उसमें हिंड्रेंस या फिर नीड्स या फिर किसी मोटिव को अचीव करने के लिए हिंड्रेंस क्रिएट होती है, उसको तब फ्रस्ट्रेशन कॉज होती है. ओके, एग्जाम्पल से मैंने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया. इफ यू वांट आई कैन एक्सप्लेन अगेन. सो बेसिकली फ्रस्ट्रेशन क्या होता है? फ्रस्ट्रेशन रिजल्ट होता है फ्रॉम दी ब्लॉकिंग ऑफ, किसकी ब्लॉकिंग से? नीड्स और मोटिव्स के. जब एक इंसान अपने नीड्स या मोटिव्स को अचीव नहीं कर पा रहा ड्यू टू समथिंग और समवन जो हिंडर करता है उसको गोल अचीव करने से, तब फ्रस्ट्रेशन कॉज होती है. There could be a number of causes of frustration, जैसे कि social discrimination is one example, interpersonal hurt, low grades in school, these are some examples of frustration. अब conflict क्या होता है? conflict का क्या मतलब होता है? conflicts तब अकर होता है जब कोई दो या फिर दो से ज्यादा incompatible needs, okay, conflicts may occur. So now we'll be starting with conflicts. When does conflicts occur? Basically, conflicts occur when we are between two or more incompatible needs or motives. The things which cannot be basically, which are not compatible, incompatible needs. Let's take an example that you just finished your class 12 and you're confused whether you want to pursue your passion, which is dance, or you want to go for higher studies, or in your favorite subject, which is psychology. Okay, these are two incompatible things and needs and motives. With the example given in the book, we can understand that whether to study dance or psychology, you may want to continue studies or take up a job. There may be conflict of values when you are pressurized to take any action that may be against the values held by you. Okay, there can also be conflict of values when, for example, peers are pressuring you to smoke and drink and it's against the value. It can cause conflict as it's incompatible needs or motives. Now let's talk about internal pressure. What is internal pressure? Internal pressure is the pressure that we create ourselves within our mind. Okay, and internal pressure stems from our beliefs based upon expectations from inside us to ourselves. The expectations we create for ourselves is the cause of internal pressure, and we create extremely high standard of expectations which cannot be met by the deadline, and when it's not met by the deadline, we come into a stressful state, and such expectations can lead to disappointment. Let's take an example. You thought that by the end of this week you will be able to cover whole syllabus, but obviously you cannot cover within a 1 week, and when you are not able to, it put it in a state of distress. So basically this is called internal pressure, and many of us drive ourselves ruthlessly towards achieving unrealistically high standards and achieving our goal. Now next is social pressure. What is social pressure? Social pressure is the pressure that is brought to us from people who make excessive demand on us. Okay, and it can cause greater pressure when we even have to work with those people who makes excessive demand on us. Now next topic is social stress. Please don't confuse social pressure and social stress. Social pressure is created, whereas social stress is induced. Social stress is social stress is already there within the environment, whereas social pressure is created in your mind by the people who make excessive demand on you. So social stress are induced externally and result from our interaction with other people. Social events like death or illness in the family, strained relationship, trouble with neighbors are some example of social stresses, and these social stresses vary widely from person to person. Every different individual has different social stresses. For someone it is the death of a loved one, for someone it is the conflicts between their families. Okay, and best example to understand this is introvert and extrovert. Okay, an introvert person doesn't likes to stay at home, read their favorite book, watch their comfort show on a Saturday night, and if they're forced to go on an outing on a Saturday night, it can put them to stress. full state, whereas compared to the extrovert who likes being out, and if he doesn't go out on a Saturday night, can cause him a state of distress. Now we'll be talking about sources of stress. We have seen the types of stress. Now we'll see what are sources of stress. Stress आता कहाँ से basically. So, a wide range of events and conditions can generate stress. Among the most important of these are major stressful life events, such as death of a loved one or personal injury, the annoying frequent hassles of everyday life, and traumatic events that affect our lives. Under this topic, we'll study three subtopics, which are life events, hassles, and traumatic events. What are life events? Life events basically changes, छोटा हो या बड़ा हो, sudden या gradual, can affect our movement, can affect our life from the moment we are born. And we learn to cope with the small changes in our everyday lives as we grow. But major life events can cause you stress, be it planned or unplanned. Let's take an example. You planned a major life event, which was changing the house or changing the state, but an unplanned also occurred after that, which was like or unpredicted breakup of a long-term relationship. If both of these things occur within a short period of time, it can get hard for the individual suffering from it to cope from it, and then it will eventually put the person into a state of distress. We find it difficult to cope with them, and as usual, the person or the individual will find it difficult to cope with them and will be more prone to symptoms of stress. So basically, life events होते हैं छोटे हो या बड़े, gradual हो या फिर sudden, can cause stress, basically planned or unplanned. Now we'll come to hassles. Okay, hassles are the personal stressors we endure. Okay, as individual, everyone has hassles. Okay, hassles can include noisy surroundings, commuting from let's take an example of a college student who travels from home to college, like it's 1.5 hour distance. Traveling from home to college to home daily can cause stress to the person. Call in some neighbors, conflicts between families, electricity and water shortage, traffic snags, and so on. And attending to various emergencies are daily hassles experienced by a housewife. Okay, there are some jobs in which daily hassles are very frequent. Let's take and one example of this job is the job of the housewife. Okay, these daily hassles may sometimes have devastating consequences for the individual who is the alone coping, and if the person is not alone, is easily able, has family support, has financial support, he or she will be able to cope more easily as compared to the other person who is not able to cope. The more stress people report as a result of daily hassle, the poorer is their psychological well-being. Last topic of this video is traumatic events. Traumatic events are basically the events that occur in nature. For example, fire, train or road accident, robbery, earthquake or tsunami, which can put the person into distress, or even in extreme cases, the person can suffer from PTSD. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which we'll be studying further in the next chapter. The effects of these events now may occur after some lapse of time. अब ज़रूरी नहीं कि आज एक्सीडेंट हुआ है कल उसको स्ट्रेस होगा, ऐसा कभी नहीं होता. कभी कभी क्या होता है, आज रोड एक्सीडेंट हुआ है, 1 महीने के बाद उसको सिम्टम्स दिखा रहे हैं, 1 महीने के बाद उसको फ्लैशबैक्स आ रहे हैं. ही गेट्स एंजाइटी वेन एवर ही और शी इज़ ऑन रोड, फ्लैशबैक्स, ड्रीम्स और इवन intrusive thoughts. Okay, and these severe trauma can also strain relationship if the professional help is not taken. Professional help will be needed to cope with them, especially if they persist over for many months and after the event is over. Okay, with this we end this video. In next video we'll be covering the topic effects of stress on psychological functioning and health. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please share, like and comment the video. Thank you.